Kogi experience. It was with the Kogi that my experiences with indigenous peoples began to manifest more than just lessons in spirituality and human potential. What they taught and showed me illuminated the spiritual idea of being able to see within darkness. Without their help, I might never have found this secret space within the heart. For their loving assistance, I will forever be indebted to them. I had just finished an Earth Sky workshop in Maryland, US, when a young white man approached me and said that he was sent by the Maya of Guatemala to give me a message from the Kogi tribe of the Sierra Nevada mountains of Colombia, South America. I listened to him, but I had never heard of the Kogi tribe. He explained that the Kogi were one of the few tribes who mostly escaped the Spanish Inquisition in the 1500s by moving high up into the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. There they were inaccessible and therefore able to maintain some of their original culture and religious beliefs. Even now, they live almost the same way they did 1,000 years ago. Within their tribe is a group called the Mamas, who the Kogi believe are not really human, but part of the Earth's consciousness, map mountains, the balance of the world's ecological system. The Kogi believe that without the Mamas, the Earth would die. The Mamas are also the religious leaders of the Kogi tribe and are respected in the same way Jesus is respected by the Christians or Muhammad by the Muslims. According to the young man who was telling me this story, the Mamas are able to see in complete darkness, and they watch over the world with their inner vision and their intimate connection to Mother Earth, who they call Aluna. What is incredibly interesting is that when a baby who is or will become a mama is discovered within the Kogi tribe, it is taken to an unusual place for special training and upbringing. In the old days, this was a completely dark cave, but today the baby is taken to a special building constructed of all natural materials where no light can enter. In almost complete darkness, this special baby will be fed only white foods while it grows up and will be given just enough light so as not to go blind. The baby also receives a most unusual spiritual training. For 9 years, this baby remains in complete darkness, learning to see without using the eyes. Just like the super psychic children who are emerging around the world. At 9 years of age, the young child is brought out into the light to learn how to see with the eyes. What an experience that must be. Can you imagine what it must be like to see this incredible planet for the first time when you're 9 years old? The young man who was telling me about the Kogi and the Mamas began to tell me another story about why he was sent to me. He said that the Kogi Mamas were not only able to see any place in the world, but they could also see into the future, just like the Hopi, the Maori, and many other indigenous tribes around the world. He said that the Kogi Mamas had never been wrong in their predictions about the future in their entire history. According to the Kogi Mamas, by the last solar eclipse of the 20th century, on August the 11th, 1999, all the techno-cultural peoples of the world should have gone to another dimension of the Earth's consciousness, leaving behind the indigenous and natural peoples of the world to inherit the physical planet. This is reminiscent of the Bible's words that the meek shall inherit the earth. This prediction is also very similar to what Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, said, that by the winter of 1998 the poles of the earth would shift and an enormous change would happen on Earth. Many New Age people thought this meant that most of the consciousness of the world would move into the fourth dimension. The young man moved closer to me, as if to emphasize what he was about to tell me. He lowered his voice and whispered, "On August the 12th, 1999, the Kogi mamas saw that we, the technoculture, were still here on Earth. They went into deep meditation to see why, since this was the first time in their long history that one of their predictions didn't come true. According to him, there in the darkness, the Kogi mamas could see lights all over the surface of the planet, and they had not been there before. In investigating these lights, the mamas found that they were the lights of people who had learned about their light bodies, which in ancient times were called Merkabahs. It was the mamas' belief that these people with their light bodies had changed the course of history. As a teacher of the science of the Merkabah, I know that once we remember our Merkabah, we can, with certain training, alter the external world by what we think and feel. According to the Kogi mamas, some of us did change the outer world so much that a new reality was created. And this was something the Kogi mamas had not seen, because it originated in the future, not in the past. Of course, if this is true, it begins to reveal an even deeper level of the nature of human potential. Just so you know, the Kogi mamas hadn't thought we knew how to use this ability within us. Here is an interesting piece of information. The United States Air Force had contacted me when I was working on clearing up air pollution, first with the R2 and then using my Merkabah, and in personal discussions they revealed something very interesting. Many of my Merkabah students have been telling me, and I myself have seen this, that the moment they activated their Merkabah for the first time, they sometimes found themselves surrounded by black helicopters, and often the helicopters simply would not go away, but follow them around and stay with them for weeks or even months. A major in the Air Force told me that as the Merkabah disk expands, one person in his or her Merkabah field puts out about the same energy, magnetic pulse, as a city of about 15,000 people. She said that their satellites could see a person's light body and show the image on the Air Force's computer screens. For several years, this caused a huge concern in the US military, but now they understand that this is simply part of the new consciousness that is unfolding on Earth at this time. So if the US Air Force can see the Merkabah field, why not the Kogi mamas? The young man looked at me innocently and said, "The Kogi mamas wish to thank you for teaching about the Merkabah and changing the world in the process." He then handed me a small package of tobacco wrapped in a bright red cotton cloth as a gift from the mamas to show their appreciation. I was not prepared for this unexpected ceremony, so I glanced around and gave him a red rose from a nearby flower arrangement to give back to the mamas. And then it was over. After he'd left, I thought about this experience for a while, but I soon forgot about the Kogi as my thoughts returned to the familiar world of my life. I never thought that I would ever hear from them again. A couple of months went by, and after yet another workshop, this same man approached me, again with a message from the Kogi mamas. He said that the Kogi mamas wanted to meet with me and teach me the language that has no words. He then told me that it would be very unusual for them to come to the United States, as only 3 of them had ever left Colombia. But if I asked, they would find a way. They really would like for me to come down to the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta and meet with them there. I thought about this message for a while, and then went into a deep meditation asking my two angels permission to embark on this new adventure. Both looked at me and immediately gave me permission to pursue this experience, whatever it was going to be. I opened my eyes and simply said, "Yes, I will allow this." I had the option of either going to the mountains of Colombia or having the mamas find me. Knowing my super tight schedule was booked solid for the next year, I asked if they could come to me. Without hesitation, the man responded, "I will relay the message," and left without another word. On my way home on the plane, I finally had time to think about this. Although I didn't know how the Kogi mamas were going to find me, I was sure they would. I have personally seen indigenous people interact in this ordinary world in ways that most people would find hard to believe. Here is one example. The people of the Taos Pueblo in New Mexico had asked me to participate in a ceremony to help heal the pain between white and red man. The ceremony was to be performed by the followers of the Peyote Code, the Native American church within the Taos Pueblo, and was set to commence on the sunrise on a certain day in the future. The day arrived, and the sun was just about to break over the edge of the horizon when 3 Huichol Indian shamans arrived at our ceremonial circle and asked permission to participate. They were dressed in full ceremonial dress, with feathers in their hair and paint in their faces and bodies. Jimmy Rayner, a native of Taos Pueblo, who was leading the ceremony, asked them how they had known about this ceremony, because those involved in it had been asked not to tell anyone. They said they'd been in a peyote ceremony in Mexico and saw the vision of this ceremony. Their leaders determined that these 3 men were to go to our ceremony, so they dressed for the occasion and walked all the way to Taos Pueblo. Pretty impressive, since they lived 300 miles from the US border. And once they crossed, they still had to walk another 300 miles to reach Taos Pueblo. 600 miles, and no one stopped them. They crossed the Rio Grande. They walked over freeways. They climbed over barbed wire fences, and they arrived only about 5 minutes before we began the ceremony. All this in full ceremonial garb. Life and human potential are so much greater than most people accept. And so I waited for the Kogi mamas to contact me somehow, although I couldn't imagine how it would happen.